Good morning, everybody, and a happy Houdat to you here on this Monday morning edition of Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBears Casino. TK joining us over at Court Street Cafe in downtown Port Allen. I'm at an undisclosed location just presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Go to lasportshall.com. And of course, we're presented by LeBears Casino. Wherever you're watching, you can always go to LeBears Baton Rouge and put some bets at the sports book, celebrate at 18 steak, or, go have a good time at Edge. TK, the New Orleans Saints get off the schneid. Spencer Rattler gets off the schneid. He'd lost 10 straight games as a quarterback in the NFL going back to last year. His first 10 starts in the NFL, he dropped them all. But thanks to five New York Giant turnovers, really should have been four. They should have knocked down that pass on fourth down. But I get it. Everybody wants to make a catch on a turnover when you should just knock it down. But five Giants turnovers to none for the New Orleans Saints. No turnovers for the New Orleans Saints. They end up winning 26-14.
Yeah, I didn't get to see a lot of the game. Had some football at MBS going on. Saw plays here and there, but I'm happy for Kellen Moore. I'm happy for Spencer Rattler to get that. He never won a game as a starter. That can't be said anymore. And the Saints found a way to win the game against a team that had won their first game the week before, and Jackson Dart. Everybody, a lot of eyes on him. But bottom line is, Saints won. Still a long way to go, and they'll host the Patriots next week. But they did get that first win. Kellen Moore got the game ball, that's what happens in the NFL when a head coach gets his first win as a head coach. He gets the game ball. Normally it goes to a player or say every now and then somebody else. But glad for the Saints to go ahead and get the win. Ronnie, as you know, I was a little kid when the Saints were born. So I've always said I'd rather the Saints win than lose, certainly. And even though we don't think this means anything about playoffs or having a super season, it was good for the Saints to get a win.
Surprising to find out the news that Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau would be both active and available to play on yesterday, and they did play. Taysom Hill did have some moments. He does not look 100% healthy. He does not look like his old self, but it's clear he gave some motivation, some juice. He made a couple of plays that helped them win the ball game. So from a New Orleans Saints perspective, it was good to see Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau, available and in the lineup. A veteran presence, gave a little, motivation to the fans, gave a little motivation to their teammates. I didn't think Taysom Hill would potentially ever be back in a New Orleans Saints uniform. His knee injuries and his medical history is so deep and so horrible that a mere mortal would not be playing football. But here we are in week 5. Taysom Hill's back playing, one of the more incredible stories. But Tommy, I will say this, and this may be, normally I look through things in black and gold glasses, and I never in my life ever bet a season for the Saints to lose like I did this year. Normally, you're trying to take the over. They only think they're going to win 7 or 8 or 9 games. I think they're going to win more. That's so. So it was a weird thing for me yesterday to watch that game and to be like, all right, they won. Oh, but that also hurts me because, of course, they were 0-4. I have 2 bets going under 5.5, under 3.5 wins this year on the season for the Saints. But looking at it from a standpoint of pessimism, then we'll go optimism second. The pessimistic side says, Tommy, the Giants were able to kind of do what they wanted for about 3 quarters offensively. The 5 turnovers they had, one of them was a fourth down, just deep throw, and the guy caught it instead of knocking it down for the Saints. That was sort of a garbage, selfish turnover. Nobody knocks balls down anymore on fourth down. They want that cheap interception, even though if you knock it down, you'd get it 40 yards, up the field. So let's talk about the other 4 turnovers. Well, one was Jackson Dart's just literally rolling out to his left, no one around him, and just drops the ball. As he's running, it just slips out of his hands like he had too small of hands. The other one, Scattaboo is at like the 10-yard line or whatever, just runs the ball into the middle of the pile, and as soon as he's touched, he drops the ball. Like, that dude's not going to ever do that again the rest of the season. And it goes not to the house 90 yards or whatever it was, 87, whatever the heck. I mean, not only were they about to either at minimum kick a field goal, but they've been driving the ball right down the field, going to take the, score a touchdown, take the lead. Instead, it's a 10, 14 point swing. Another one hits the dart hits a receiver, a veteran receiver at that, one of their best over the middle. And he just he gets on trying to break a tackle, break a second tackle. Demario Davis knocks it out. He fumbles. So to me, it was the Giants just gifting them four really turnovers to none for the New Orleans Saints. Give the Saints credit for none, but I don't even feel like two or three of those turnovers that they did anything to earn them. It was just Giants being Giants. And so, and then, oh, by the way, Groupie missed another kick. It was a 52-yarder, but he had just made a 53-yarder. Literally, he made a 53-yarder, and then he misses a 52-yarder. Again, in this day and age, with the kicking balls being that you can use the balls all week and get to use those kicking balls in the game, you see everybody else making kicks left and right, indoor, outdoor, whatever. Last night, the Patriots kick a 53-yard field goal at the Horn to win it over the Buffalo Bills on the road. The ball was so high, Tommy, it would have been good from 70. I mean, I am not kidding. Go look at the replay on that 52-yard field goal. It was up at the top of the net from 52. So my point being, Groupies missed four kicks in four different games this year. And so the Saints were the Saints. Is what the defense was. The offense. All right, offense did some things. The offense has been doing some things. So I just don't think the Saints are out of the woodwork. Now, the optimistic side, Tommy, you got Taysom Hill back. That makes a difference in your short yardage package. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Those were struggle points for the Saints before. Now you got a lot more diversity in play calling and options with Taysom Hill being able to be on the field, and that proved itself. They converted a couple they may not have in the past. So that's a good thing for the Saints to get that depth, to have that variety on offense. And obviously Foster Moreau, one of their top, tight ends, to have him in the mix is a good thing. And oh, by the way, getting that monkey off their back, getting that first one is always the hardest. That second one will come a little easier. Now, that's my two opinions.
Yeah, well, and when Taysom Hill runs off the sidelines to the huddle, defense immediately got to start thinking, okay, what we got here? What formation? Where's he going to be? Is there a tendency if he does this or does that? So you put a little pressure on the defense just with his appearance, and then of course maybe a little juice in the locker room. Guys always want their teammates to come back and play and get healthy and help try to win a football game or any sport. So I see that. I'm glad the Saints got a win for Kellen Moore and Spencer Rattler. That's good. That's cool. Now you got to turn the page. Patriots come to the Dome. Big win, as you just referenced last night on the road in Buffalo.
In
And
Buffalo.
they're 3-2. Drake May's having okay numbers as quarterback, and they'll come in as a 3.5 point favorite against the Saints next Sunday, noon kick in the Dome.
Move over to LSU. The Tigers have an off week. They went 1-0. If
Well, that means
Brian,
that means Garrett Nussmeier's healed now, right?
right. But they really did go 1-0, Tommy, because they climbed two spots in the polls and didn't even play.
Yeah.
And now they're up to 11 in the latest both polls. They are a 9.5 point favorite this Saturday night, 6:45 at home against South Carolina. Over under 44.5 in that game. I I would have to, in good conscience, take South Carolina in the points in this one.
I think that's my thought today as well. You're 9.5, 2-score game according to the wise guys. But it'd be a lot of eyes on LSU to see what they do offensively, in particular, and Garrett Nussmeier and the run game. That's going to get talked about to death between now and Saturday. But LSU did jump up to number 11 in both of the major polls. And, Ronnie, I was thinking as I was ripping through all the scores, Texas and Penn State were in the top 5 preseason poll. Neither one of them are ranked this week. Not even
Amazing.
ranked. They're not like 22nd. But here's my thought. Polls were never totally accurate, okay? And everybody that covers sports makes mistakes. But nowadays, because of the NIL and the portal, the polls are even less credible because it's too hard to figure out. You just don't know how teams are going to gel with the 8 new guys from the portal and the guy who's still there, but he's not happy because he's not making enough money. It's just very hard to predict. if nothing else, it's going to make more fans of college football and more teams are going to have a shot to get to that 12-team playoff. Kind of like when baseball expanded to the wild card in the 90s. The old guys like me, no, no, don't expand it. I agree now. It's been a great thing for baseball, but in college football, it's almost like recess at school. Every team gets picked different every day. Like, hey, I got Ronnie today. No, Ronnie dropped the pass yesterday. I don't want it. It's like recess football to me. It's like who's who. Crazy. You made a
Um,
text the other day. It's just something's just not hunky dory about college football.
no, I mean, look, all UCLA beating Penn State
Yeah,
is, I want to say it's the biggest upset, like a ranked, a top 10 team losing to an 0-4 team. First time that's happened since 85, maybe, or something like
yeah.
that. It's only happened like a handful of times in the history of football. Uh, and UCLA, I don't know what got into them. I mean, they look completely different offensively. And I think what it is Penn State came off that emotional game at home against Oregon. Whiteout, 110,000. You're talking about Oregon, and then you just see how terrible UCLA is. You just saw 8,000 to 9,000 people in there a few weeks ago. New Mexico goes in there and beats them, and so you're just thinking, hey, we're just going to roll out there. It's going to be no big deal. And those sissy blue shirts put it on them. I mean, they may have potentially turned their season around, for UCLA. But I mean, those types of things are just they happen more often because we are ranking teams not really knowing. Now, Franklin said, who's a veteran coach, he said before the season that he thought this was one of his best teams he's ever had. He loved the makeup of his roster, the camaraderie, the whole 9 yards. He said it was potentially the best team he's ever coached, and yet they've lost two straight games, and now the water's boiling around him.
Well, and they're kind of like the story of last year. Ohio State had some guys come back, to try to win the title. Penn State, not only Franklin's comments, they had some guys come back who might have could have went in the draft and been a fourth round pick or something and maybe stuck on a roster. So, and again, and then you go to the James Franklin story, 1-15 or whatever it is against ranked teams. I mean, there's only two. He's only got one win against the Power Four team this year. I mean, so that's for them to worry about up at Penn State. But it goes to the point of college football is just so much different now. It's always been different, it changed from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s into this century. But in the last 2, 3 years, because of the portal, because of NIL, it's really changed more than the other trends.
I'm really curious to see what happens to Arch Manning. Did everyone really was it DEI when it came to the evaluation of Arch Manning in the sense that because of his name they gave him extra points on the test and they evaluated him higher because Arch Manning's got a long way to go to live up to the name on the back of his jersey.
Well, Ronnie, every now and then we get one right, and I might have one right. I'm on record in my old podcast with this shit saying if his name wasn't Manning, he'd be at McNeese or Southeastern or Nichols, okay? Because I saw him play in person. This is not videotape. Stood next to him. He's truly 6'4". I stood right next to him, and got beat in a playoff game against Lafayette Christian Academy in Lafayette. I was in a TV crew that day. And I remember thinking he just wasn't that. He wasn't. Juwan Johnson, the running back at LSU, was a 10th grade quarterback in that game that I'm talking about. And he was way better quarterback than Arch Manning. He was a 10th grader, and now he's a running back for the Tigers. But I don't know. There's a lot of upside. You would think he's got the football IQ, but it's just not working like everybody thought it might. And I guess it could turn around because somebody always bring it up. Well, Peyton Manning went 3-13 his first year in the NFL. The rest of his story's not bad. And there's other quarterbacks who, especially now in that world of the transfer portal. Joe Burrow didn't do a damn thing at Ohio State, and then all of a sudden he's winning a Heisman and a national championship at LSU. So can it turn around? Will he be at Texas? Time will tell.
3-13 in the NFL is a little different story from a standpoint of clearly the Colts were the worst team in the league. That's why they were able to get Peyton Manning. And I don't care who you are. It's very rare that you take a worst team and make them first in the NFL the next year when you're the number one pick. Uh, look, I'm not giving up on Arch Manning from a standpoint of, oh, that's it. He's never going to get it turned around. He's never going to be an NFL player. But he may have to do it somewhere else. I mean, at some point, University of Texas may say, we're not the place to just sit here and let you be bad before you become good. They can't. They're like LSU. They can't afford to do that. So he may have to go be real good somewhere else and find his
Well,
way to the NFL. And that's not uncommon, obviously, these days.
one thing that's been pointed out a lot. He wasn't on the field last year, and the guy on the field was a seventh round pick who has been cut in the NFL. And I got to believe Sarkeesian thought Ewers gave him the better chance to win the game, or he'd have ran Manning out there. So some people look at that, and maybe it's getting overanalyzed, but the only two games he put up numbers against was like Texas San Antonio and, people like that. So it's not like, and then he goes down to Florida, who, they got their issues. And it doesn't work. He throws a couple of picks and missed a wide open receiver in the flat. I mean, wasn't even close to the guy. But, we'll see. We got to let it play out, to use the old Ronnie term. Let it play out. But you can argue both sides as of today.
Miami and Ohio State both look to be the cream of the crop at the moment. Maybe Alabama will have something to say about that as the season goes on, and in Georgia, see how those machines roll. But right now, Miami and Ohio State look to be the cream of the crop. Miami with a convincing win against Florida State over the weekend.
Yeah, they were really good. I saw a little bit of that game, and the Hurricanes, they still got that swag, from back in the day. And Coach Cristobal, who's a high school buddy of Louis Garcia, one of your dear friends, they're getting it done. And then Shannon Dawson is the offensive coordinator of Miami. He was on Hal Mummy's staff when you and I were announcing those games on radio and TV when Southeastern returned football. Shannon was a very young coach on that staff, 48 years old now, been offensive coordinator in numerous spots. Of course, he's got Carson Beck, and he had Ward last year, so it's kind of, I guess it's good to have those guys when you're calling plays. But he'll be a head coach one day, somewhere in the Power Four. I don't know if that means next year, but Miami, Ohio State, you hit the nail on the head. As of today, October 6th, that's who looks to be the best.
This past Saturday, Southeastern dominated McNeese over on the road in Lake Charles. I think it was
Did
35 nothing at halftime. They were up and just cruised in that one. Tulane had an off week. They will play this Thursday at home against East Carolina on national TV. They will be a 6.5 point favorite. Will Tulane at home again with the against East Carolina? Let's go over to Major League Baseball. TK, I know you've been keeping up with that. The Yankee the Blue Jays talked a lot of smack and it offended the Yankees, but they have lived up to it. Up 2-0 in the best of five series through the first two games. Kevin Gausman, former LSU Tiger, University Club resident, got a win in game one. Went 5 1/3, I believe, and only gave up one run.
They blasted the Yankees twice. Those now to head back to the Bronx for Game 3 tomorrow. In the other American League, Seattle and Detroit have had two close, nail-biting, dramatic get. Postseason baseball is the best. Playoff baseball is just different, and that's been magnified by this Detroit-Seattle series. Late on the West Coast in Seattle, maybe not a lot of people saw it, but I can promise you, both of these teams are very, very good with a ton of talent, and they'll take today off. You do have two National League games today. Dodgers are in Philly. Dodgers won game one. Otani, winning pitcher in the playoff game. And that'll be 5 o'clock. Nolan not throwing tonight. I assume he'll throw game three. Luzardo's throwing tonight for the Phillies. The other National League game at 8 o'clock tonight, following the Dodgers and Philly. Cubs at Brewers, with the Brewers up 1-0. Brewers, I tell you, what I've seen in the MLB postseason, Brewers, Tigers, Mariners. That's the best teams, but you can't count out the Dodgers and the Phillies. Going to be some exciting baseball the rest of this month.
The I guess the series that sort of doesn't get the love is because it's West Coast is Seattle, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those first two games between Detroit and Seattle have been good ones. The atmosphere in Seattle's been electric. It's just, it's just one of those deals where it's way over there and West Coast and all that. Um, how about Gosman striking out Judge his last batter he faced in that game, game one for Toronto? That was pretty good. Good stuff. And a,
Yeah.
and a 2-1 ball game. Now they ended up pouring it on and winning 10-1 game one after Gosman came out. But in that 2-1 game, where that's when Gosman was his best. And then of course the next inning, seventh inning is when they scored, I don't know, 7 runs or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, no, Gosman, I mean, he has really, been a consistent, solid performer in MLB and having a good year for Toronto. No question about
Is
that. I mean,
Nola going tonight, Tommy?
no, Luzardo's going for the
Luzardo.
Phillies tonight. I think Nola may go in game three, and I'm guessing that. He
Okay.
didn't throw game one, so my guess is he would be game three. And I could look ahead and see if that's been posted, but no. So I know, like I said, if I know football's on everybody's mind, but MLB, and I'm gonna repeat it, playoff baseball's just different. Like that night, the Rougarou beat the Generals to win the Texas Collegiate League championship. One of my comments on that recap is playoff baseball is just different. Well, it was different feeling that night at Pete Goldsby Field and in all of these major league parks. I mean, that's Seattle. Seattle had not won a home playoff game since 2001. Since 2001. So their
Wow.
fans were just, hey,
Grew up
every
not
kid.
never knowing them to win a playoff game. Yeah.
Well, Ronnie, they were up 2-0 going to the ninth, and the Tigers tied it 2-2. Then they won at the bottom of the ninth. I mean, how did it get any better than that? Two
Right.
nothing in the ninth. The other team ties it, and you win at the bottom of the ninth, 3-2. I mean, wow. And then this was really cool. Polanco hit two bombs his first two at bats off a Scooble, and you know how they superimpose the pitch. One was a fastball, one was a slider. And when it made contact with the bat, it was the exact same spot over the plate, just slightly inside, maybe by a ball. I mean, it was uncanny. He put the barrel on two different pitches, the same exact spot, virtually to the naked eye.
Speaking of, you mentioned the Rougarou. Big news tomorrow. We'll be
Ooh.
announcing 10 a.m. tomorrow. We'll have a press release. It'll be all over social media. Big news tomorrow for the Rougarou, as well as the Lake Charles Gumbo Gators. So that'll look for that on your social media, and we'll talk about it, of course, on Sports George Daily on Wednesday morning. But for you Rougarou or TCL Lake Charles Gumbo Gator fans, give a follow on social media, all the platforms, and check out the news tomorrow that we'll be announcing. All right, TK, tell us about Court Street Cafe.
Well, they got the breakfast, lunch, dinner 7 days a week. Sunday brunch, no dinner Sunday night. Steak night is Saturday night. That's fabulous. They get their steaks from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. They do a great job on Facebook and Instagram of putting out the lunch specials. Today it's red beans and rice. Huh? Go figure. It's a Monday. And then, of course, dinner specials, a dinner special of the week, drink specials, the daiquiris, the special drinks, a lot of bourbon in the house here. Court Street Cafe. Jason and the staff do a super job here in Port Allen, just a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. And we want you to check it out. Many of you have done so. If you hadn't, check it out. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you will be glad you did. Really good stuff, very reasonably priced. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. We'll be back on Wednesday morning for another episode of Sports George Daily. Like and share this show. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, it all helps. Like and share this show. We'll be back from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood on Wednesday morning. On behalf of Ronnie Rance, Jason, and the staff here at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen, I'm Tommy Christ saying stay dry today. Have a good day.